We're talking Miami football with Isaiah Kim Martinez. You can join him at Miami Hurricane. It's the flagship site for Miami football there on campus. He is the sports editor right there, and he's helped us out with Miami football in the past. And we're talking Duke with the Blue Devils coming in at 4-0. Miami winning that game against Toledo 52-30, trailing at half, Isaiah, 16-10. At points during the game, the defense was giving up chunks of yardage, especially through the air. 21 days off. You can understand the rust. We also kind of not targeted this game like it was a Florida State or Virginia Tech, but targeted as a sneaky, difficult game in amongst the other games. A MAC team that typically is one of the powers in that conference coming in. And so it was definitely a test for the Hurricanes. Your thoughts about what you saw and maybe some concerns heading into the Duke game?
Well, no surprise, Mark, conditioning was an issue, and you could see it primarily with the defense. We already knew that secondary was young, inexperienced, and flat out, it did not look like it was, how we were used to seeing them, even with the inexperience. It was just blown coverages. Pretty much the quarterback, who we already know, the quarterback for Toledo, Logan Woodside, is talented. He's shown that at the beginning of this season, but he was finding guys wide open, and it was strange to see for a Miami defense that has played so well. Pretty much the same defense, at least the front seven wise, very similar personnel as last year in some ways. So to just see them struggle in that way to stop the pass was definitely a little strange, but you could tell that it was because they were gassed. Coach Diaz said that they were going to be constantly rotating guys because these guys weren't used, because of the long break, weren't necessarily used to the grind that comes with these long games. So conditioning was definitely a problem. So they had to get tired and switching guys out, and clearly they struggled in that first half. The offense honestly struggled as well. MarkRogersTV wasn't necessarily hitting his targets. He only had, I believe, 50 yards passing at halftime, which for any quarterback is not ideal. Wasn't passing a whole lot, mainly because he wasn't really looking for many guys, because obviously Mark Walton was exploding in that first half. So he was really the only guy, I would say, in that first half for the Hurricanes team that really looked like themselves, really looked normal, and he was just tearing up the Toledo defense. So he was the majority of that offense, but that defense could really not stop anyone. And then by the time Walton suffered the injury that kept him out for the remainder of that first half, not only did our defense struggle, but our offense looked kind of dead too. And Rozier was struggling to find his guys. So conditioning was really a problem in that first half. But then they said that Diaz at halftime told the players, wrote it on a whiteboard, said, "We are going to win this game." They wrote on the whiteboard, had the players all look at it. He basically said, no matter what's going on right now, we're going to win this ball game. And they came out in the second half. Defense still had some moments where you could tell some blown coverages here and there, but the energy-wise, they looked more into it. Rozier began to hit his targets, and thankfully Mark Walton, he came back and closed out the game strong. So really my takeaway was just 21 days off without a game, 10 days off at one point without any type of practice. That first half is going to be rough for most teams, even the best teams in the country. You could name Clemson, Alabama, I'm sure would have similar issues. But that second half, I thought that fans could see more of the usual Hurricane team that they're used to, and that's why they pulled it out.
And such an odd game for Mark Walton. You typically don't have your career best game when you hurt your ankle and you only carry the ball 11 times, but he rushed for 204 yards, very explosive plays.
Yeah. Out for 2 quarters, basically, and still was able to be one of 5 Miami players in history to break that 200 mark. So, I mean, it's quite the record to beat.
Also, 28 career touchdowns for Mark Walton in just 28 collegiate games. Not a whole lot of guys running around out there in collegiate football that average 1 touchdown per game at the running back position.